Well, happy Thursday, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram, and I am the agency trainer and host and answer of questions and whatever else here today. Again, little warning, I'm still not feeling great. I'm medicated. I have some sort of upper respiratory thing going on, and my head's a little swimmy, so you may want to fact check everything I say even closer than normal today, but I shall do my best to get questions answered. So again, if you're just joining us in Zoom, open up the chat, say hello. You will find therein a couple of links, the link to ask a question for today, as well as the link to the weekly brief. We have 6 questions in the list, so a good group to get started out with, but we will begin as usual with the weekly brief. So just a few things to talk about since last time. It's been kind of a slow news week in the WordPress /tech /AI I'm staring at a screen all day world. Yeah, so let's talk about those. They mostly have to do with security issues. That was some of the pre-chat live stream conversation in the chat. So let's get started with that, shall we? Actually, we're going to start with WordPress 7.1, then we'll get into some security things. So we still are on track for that August the 19th release of WordPress 7.1. And one of the things that you're going to see well, you may not actually see any difference at all unless you have old block sets. But one of the biggest changes, well, I'll say it this way. One of the biggest changes that most people will probably ever notice is the fact that they are migrating the entire internal display of the page building, block building editor as an iframe. So it hasn't been that way up to this point. They've been kind of gradually nudging it in, but now it's all going to be iframed in. Now that matters for a lot of technical reasons, but one of the big things that you might find is if you are using an old block set, blocks that haven't been updated in a while, or maybe it's one particular block that you grabbed 2 years ago that hasn't been updated since, they may not display correctly in the editor. Now, they'll probably render okay on the front end, but in the editor, they're not going to be targeting this new iframe situation that is going to be in the block editor on the back end. So just be aware of that. Make sure that as you roll forward into WordPress 7.1, that you're not using any old, outdated blocks, and that you're using current good block sets. So just to note on that. One of the biggest changes, and the thing that I am probably most happy about, has to do with the new media editing window. This is, it's going to launch from the same little crop button that you see now under an image, but it's going to look kind of like this, which is kind of neat. It's going to be a larger modal where you can add image details, change the aspect ratio, even zoom in right there, changing crop points, kind of moving it around back and forth. It's going to be a much nicer and frankly long overdue sprucing up of the picture handling media editing inside of WordPress. So that's pretty good. One other really good change, and we've been talking about this, is the change to do browser side compression of media images, right? So this is going to work in Chrome and in Microsoft Edge, which is built on Chrome, but it will not work in Firefox and Safari yet because those browsers don't support the pipeline behind the scenes that has to be in place for this to work. But one of the biggest things, okay, if you've ever tried to, like say you have a client and they send you a bunch of pictures they took on their iPhone, and it's in that HEIC image format, which is really great if you're just viewing images from phone to phone because they're highly compressed, they still retain good fidelity, etc. But they don't have as broad of a compatibility as other formats. Well, WordPress, because of the browser-aware upload, you should be able to upload those images now into the browser, and they'll convert them on the WordPress side as they need to be into, whatever formats. It's also going to do WebP and AVIF processing on the client side as well. That's really good. And it should help to give us better access to more modern image formats without taxing the server. And so this is all good. This is great news. They did, however, drop again the whole collaboration feature that got punted again. Still not ready. And so this is honestly, it's not a whole lot of a big deal in WordPress 7.1, except some of these image things. I mean, there's a lot of under the hood changes, but there's some blocks, some core blocks get responsive treatment, like, hover states and how does it look in different viewports, that if you've been using a commercial block kit like Kadence blocks or generate blocks or fill in the blank blocks, you've had those for years already. So this is just not a whole lot to talk about here other than these things, but it's coming. August 18th on the last day of or August 19th, the last day of WordCamp US in a few weeks in Phoenix. All right, moving right along. Let's talk about those security issues, because there are security issues plenty. Somebody mentioned in the pre-show chat that it seems like they're just happening more and more. And yes, that does seem to be that way, because I think, this is the downside of AI. Not only are plugin developers using AI to write more updates and build cooler things more quickly, the bad guys are also using AI to find these vulnerabilities more quickly. So yeah, it's a big deal. And we've had several big ones in the past few days. So WooCommerce has shipped, core WooCommerce has shipped a couple of security updates in the last 2 days. The serious one is in WooCommerce subscriptions, okay? So if you have a site that's using the official WooCommerce subscriptions plugin, make very, very sure that it is updated to the latest version. Anything below 9.1 is affected. So make sure you're on 9.1 or higher, because this one is a big deal. I think it was like I'm not going to guess. It's a huge, large number vulnerability, but it lets an unauthorized user assume site control. That doesn't sound good to me. So make sure you're updated there. Also, Stripe for WooCommerce also got a fix. And you may have gotten an email about this. It was such a big deal. They emailed everybody that they knew was using the Stripe for WooCommerce. It could take the store offline. And so make sure you've updated all the things. You're the latest version of the official Stripe WooCommerce plugin. So they fixed it, but wow, big time issues on both of those. Another WooCommerce related issue was the Woo Social Login plugin. It's used by a lot of sites, and this is one that lets you log into, WordPress/WooCommerce with a Facebook login or a Google login or whatever, which is super handy for the average user. But it had a flaw that was a 9.8 out of 10. I haven't seen one that high since I can remember. It's just about as bad as it gets. So it would allow people with an Apple account to sign in, and nobody ever checked with Apple whether that was a legitimate login or not. So that's not great. And they did patch it. And so you could log in with an administrator login via Apple, and you would just be that administrator if you knew the email address. So that's not awesome. Make sure if you're using this plugin that you're at 2.8.8 or higher. We're just going to keep seeing these security exploits, folks. It's just going to be, it's the new world we live in. Another very, very common, popular plugin developer is WP Managed Ninja. That's the team behind all the Fluent things. So they had this issue where they moved their store and licensing off of their old system, which was powered by easy digital downloads. And somehow in the mix, their routing rules didn't get updated correctly. And some of their things pointed at that old server, and an attacker got access to that server and tampered with some plugin files and shipped plugins with vulnerabilities through official channels. Again, not great. So it was just for 5 hours until the Managed Ninja team figured it out. But there were a couple of versions, or one version of Fluent Forms, one version of Ninja Tables Pro. They've all been updated. They think they've emailed everybody affected. But if you are using Fluent Forms or Ninja Tables Pro, make sure you are on the latest versions there, which you see on the screen. Again, not great. We're going to see more and more of these. All righty. On the other side of security, a couple of good companies that I really appreciate, WP Umbrella and PatchStack, have teamed together to produce a 28-page WordPress security guide. This is a good one. You can download the PDF directly right there from their Google Drive. WP Umbrella work with PatchStack. They put together a really good overview that includes what I've been talking about for a while, a 3-tiered security approach. And it unpacks all these things, gives some really good recommendations. And this is what I would advise you to grab and digest because there's some good information in here. There's also especially a section here on the Cyber Resilience Act compliance. Take a look at that because it's going to be good stuff. Okie dokie. Moving along it's been a while since we've talked about the drama in WordPress, or the elephant in the room, as it were, the recent unpleasantness, as I've called it in the past. And so just a couple of updates here just to let you know what's going on. Basically, there's still, look, it's going to be October of next year before there's a trial, if there's a trial. But there's some interesting things that were developed because apparently some of the messages that were supposed, like internal WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram messages that were supposed to be preserved for this legal proceedings, ended up not being preserved. And even though Automatic's attorneys said they were preserved, they really were deleted somewhere along the way. And that really made the opposing attorneys angry. So anyway, WP Engine wants the jury to instruct that the messages that were deleted would have helped its case, which is, I mean, come on, y'all. Anyway, it's just, you scratch your head. The other interesting thing about this, there's a parallel lawsuit that was brought by a couple of agency owners, both of which hosted on WP Engine, that those folks, I think it's the next slide, actually. Yes. Okay. So those folks, Ryan Keller and Sharon Shanzer, they've also sued because of this, because their business was affected and so forth. And the initial, I just love the poetic whatever here. But the initial defense that Automatic said was, okay, we had no idea about your particular business, etc. However, they also published that little site, remember that, called a WordPress Engine Tracker, that listed 842,000 customers of that hosting company. And so, in fact, they did have knowledge that they were impacting these folks. Anyway, that's pretty funny legally, I just got to say. So that whole thing, that lawsuit is moving forward. Yeah, it's interesting. So anyhow, moving along to everybody's favorite page builder plugin, WP Bakery. Pausing for a moment. How many of you, I used to describe this as like the teenage goth emo phase of my web development. How many of you had a WP Bakery phase? Oh, if you didn't, you just missed out. And let me tell you something. This was the bomb back in the day. Like, it was fantastic. Like, it was the best thing you could possibly imagine until you saw the next thing. Anyway, they've rebuilt it from the ground up and it's supposed to be great. So go out there and try it. Congratulations to the WP Bakery team. Moving along to another little site that we've come up across, and that is wpgoldmine.io. Now, this is a site that was built to do like a deep scan of the WordPress plugin directory to surface opportunities for people who want to invest in the purchase of WordPress plugins that have an existing subscriber base. And that's big business. It's a whole thing. You know, people will buy a plugin from a developer that has a bunch of installs and then try to monetize it better, or kind of, you know, it's basically like an acquisition, like people do with businesses. So, not that we would care too much about that side. I mean, if you're into that, awesome. But what they've done is they have a lot of data here, and it's pretty interesting. So WP Goldmine, they've indexed the entire WordPress plugin directory, over 60,000 of them. And they said, you know what? 43.8% of all the plugins in the directory have gone at least 2 years without any update whatsoever. That's interesting. And it really underscores the fact that we need to pay attention to what plugins we're installing. Uh, it's so plugins that have been updated. If it's been 12 months, they're 56% or 53.6% of the plugins have been updated in the last 12 months. 6 months at 62%. So what does that do? The math 37.1% of plugins have had an update in the last 6 months. Like it's not great. So abandonment falls as sharp as install counts rise. So in the lower group of the install band, almost a quarter of them are abandoned. So it's interesting. And this one is like what really caught my attention. How many of you today are using limit login attempts? I know a lot of sites that are. It hasn't been updated since April of 2023. How about that? I mean, the plugin still appears to work, but careful what you put on your website. Okay, moving right along. This is a big one. How many of you are judicious about using a VPN when you connect to public Wi-Fi? If not, you probably should be, because this is a perfect example of why that's important. Or VPN, or what I do is use the hotspot on my iPhone, because that's just as secure. But so there's been a campaign going on that Microsoft has identified where hotel and other conference center type Wi-Fi venues have been hacked by these attackers. So somehow they get into the infrastructure, they plant their little seeds, and then they move on. And then when people connect to that public Wi-Fi, they're getting hijacked. So traffic gets redirected through the hotel network to a fake Microsoft site. And it starts logging keystrokes and screenshots and whatever. And here's the thing, it's very clever because you still get logged into your Microsoft account. They pass that information, but they've caught your credentials in the middle. So they logged it, right? So Microsoft has attributed the campaign to a group tied to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, those nice people over there. So it just underscores the fact that we need to be very careful about logging into any public Wi-Fi. Probably don't unless you have absolutely no alternative. And then maybe you shouldn't log in anyway. But use your phone hotspot, use a VPN software, and you should be in good shape. Okie dokie. This is fantastic news. How many Airtable users do we have here? You got anything on Airtable? Bad news, because the company that bought Evernote and made a royal mess out of that, as well as WeTransfer, Vimeo, and Eventbrite, is in talks to acquire Airtable. Looks like it's going to go through by the end of the year. And this company called Bending Spoons has a track record of cutting staff, consolidating products, and really jacking up the prices. And so you see that my Vimeo, I canceled Vimeo because the price increase was so significant this year. Just crazy. So who knows what they're going to do to Airtable, but if track record is anything to indicate, you might want to start thinking about an alternative unless it's worth it enough to you to pay the difference. The price for Evernote was increased. What was it? 4x? I'm making that up. I can't remember. It was significant, enough to make me abandon Evernote for good after many, many years of being an ardent supporter. There, folks, is the weekly brief. So let's talk about some upcoming things that are happening here at hosting.com's Agency Success. The first thing is, how many of y'all remember our little link tree here? So here's the history. When we first started off this whole Agency Success thing, we just needed to build some stuff to get it out the door so we could share lists of upcoming live streams with you. And this has worked. I mean, it's just been what there is, right? But I was given permission yesterday to build something new, and so I have, and here it is, and it's pretty, and it says upcoming live streams, and it's all right here. And look, there's add to the calendar links. Yay! Upcoming.myagencysuccess.com is live today, and there's some really cool tech running behind this that I'm proud of, but I'm not going to talk about it here because, y'all might try to hack it. You probably can't. But anyway, here's See, it just gets me all choked up. So we'll start to have some more. Now, notice there's only one more live stream for the month of August in a couple of weeks. Is your site agent ready? And I want to pivot in just a moment here into a short little discussion between you and me of the kinds of things you'd like to see in the fall on agency success. So this is there, it's working, it's ready, and I'm pretty happy about it. So Claude built this, and I am very proud of how it turned out. Me and my buddy Claude. Okay, so let's talk just for a minute. I would love to hear your ideas or things you would like to see training live streams about. We'd take a couple of minutes here, and I would love to hear from you in the chat on topics that you would like to see us really dig into. So Alvin says Nova Mira, and that's Nova Mira is going to definitely be part of a lot of things that we do. And what I've tried to like my where I'm stuck right there with Nova Mira is what do you want to do with it? Right? That's what do you want to do with it? There's so many things it can do. It's kind of hard to zero in, at least in my brain. What else would you like to see talked about on agency success? You want everything with Nova Mira. Creating agents, customizing your AI tools. Yeah. Please, I'm looking for ideas, folks. Oh, something security related, Bonnie? More Cloudflare? more, it's like more cowbell. I mean, we could do a Cloudflare live stream every week because they change the UI every week. All right. So yeah, we could maybe do some what to see if I would like to see something like what do you want to see done on Cloudflare, right? Because we kind of covered the basics and some more advanced stuff in the past. Whatever the new phrase is for prompt engineering, how to find redundant blocks and tools. All right. So, okay. I would covet your input on this as we go. A great way to do this is in our Slack group. If you're part of the Agency Success Slack, join that. I'm going to drop in the link bundle there in the chat. If you'd like to join the Agency Success Slack, you can do that at myagencysuccess.com, and that'll get you set up. Starter site again. Yeah. We'll probably do a couple of starter site live streams again toward the end of the year. I mean, AI is the topic for everything, right? Seems like. So anyway, ping me in Slack, or you can email me at nathan@wpnathan.com. Nathan@wpnathan.com. Can't type, but that's the address. Oh my gosh. There you go. Always email me there, and I would love to hear your ideas or things that you would like to see covered on agency success. Okie dokie. Claude Design, AI SEO, EIEIO. Good. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Well, if you have a question you'd like to ask today, please put that in the chat or the link. I just put the link in the chat. See, my brain is starting to disconnect after I've been talking for a while. So hopefully some of this answers that I'm about to give will not be word salad. Okay. The link to ask your questions is in the chat. And the first question goes to Jamie. Hey, Jamie. Oh, my Lord. There we go. Okay. All right. Jamie. Jamie asks, you had mentioned, I think a week ago in the admin bar Facebook group, you're working on a streamlined version of monster contracts. Has that been rolled out yet? I'm very curious. So I don't want to talk about my stuff here on hosting.com, but yes, that is coming. And if you want to talk more about it, reach out to me. Yes. And something much, much bigger than that also coming. Okay, next up is also Jamie. And just to note, the streamlined version is written and with my attorney currently. And he's just taking forever to get back. Okay, next up, Jamie also. I received an email from Bundle Hunt a few days ago. What is Bundle Hunt? Is that like, that's one of those like app places that sends you, it's like AppSumo, but for other things. Yeah. Okay. I think I had purchased Tech Sniper. Yep, Tech Sniper is awesome. I use that all the time. Um, I came across two interesting tools. Wondering one if you've used Bundle Hunt before, so apparently I have not. If you've tried, how do you think either one of these would be listed below? Okay, so is this like one of their deals where you pay monthly and you get access to a whole bunch of stuff? Oh no, this is a Unite Pro. Turn any website into a real Mac app. Okay, so basically what this does is it creates probably a Chromium wrapper and just loads the web page of the site in a box. So you could pretty much do the same thing by resizing your browser if you wanted. I wouldn't spend money on this. And quite frankly, look, here's the thing. Did you know that Claude can just write you little Mac apps like this? In my AI mastermind earlier today, Chris, who works for me on my team, showed a little app that his Claude created for him. That like his, maybe you all have this thing too. Do you ever get into Zoom and if like your mic is muted and you don't realize it's muted and you're back and forth and whatever? Uh, Chris built this button that's like 2/3 the size of his screen. That's this giant microphone icon that's green or red, and you press the button and it turns red and you're muted, right? But Claude did that. Claude doesn't just code for the web. Claude can code for your Mac too. So, you got an app idea, build it. Let your Claude build it. And Melanie's correct. There are hoops to get it on app stores, but if it's a local app that's just for you, build it. You can totally do it. Okay, next part of the question. Key keeper, keep track of a multitude of license keys. This sounds like something that also you could build pretty easily. I actually just set up a Notion database for this. I would not pay $19 for a very simple database because honestly, like you could 100% here do this. So Jamie, point your favorite AI tool that is code aware, like Claude Code or Codex, at this page and have it read the technical description of this app and say, build that for me, and watch it do it in like 10, 15 minutes because it will totally do it. This is a very simple database with a simple UI wrapper on top of it. Yeah. Maybe we should, that'd be a fun live stream, wouldn't it? Let's build a Mac app to do something like this. Let's build a Mac app to show me how much money I've wasted at AppSumo over the years. Do I want to do that? I'd have to think about that. The app that makes me feel bad. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, that would be fun. We should totally do that. And Chris is here. Chris says, "Do you really want to know?" I've got it tracking in Notion already. I think I've spent a ton of money at AppSumo over the last years. Not hardly any in the last year, but I think I'm on the better side of it. I think even with all the money I spent, I think I've gotten the usage out of the things that I've bought. That or I'm just fooling myself. Possibly the latter. Okay. Anyway, that was fun. Thanks for that, Jamie. And out of that great question came a wonderful idea for a live stream that I think we might just try. What could go wrong to build a Mac app, right? What could possibly go wrong? All right. There are currently 5 questions in the queue. And if you have a question you would like to ask, the link is waiting on you in the chat. Next up is Alvin. Hey, Alvin. Uh-oh. Here we go. All right. Hi. In the past, using Under Construction Pro to do placeholder and had a bypass link for clients to view it, but with the latest update, it no longer seems to work when using the bypass link. Awesome. Recently had security issues, updated to the latest version. Without the bypass link, it'll work as a placeholder still. Clients need to log in with a WordPress login. Have you used a process for showing client preview of a site? Or what have you used? Create a WordPress login with the lowest permissions or another placeholder, bypass link. Yeah. So a couple of things that I've used, Alvin. The first is a little plugin, like what I've used for years and years and years, is a plugin called Private Site. Good grief, can I type or what? Okay, so Private Site right here. This one, my private site. What this will let you do is once it's just a one button activation. And when you do that, let's just install it. When you activate this plugin, basically, when you go to the website, any URL of the website, you're presented with the WordPress login page. So you do have to log in. You'd create the user, a login, but it's super easy. You just click right here and you go to site privacy and you say enable login privacy and save, and you're done. Now this site is locked down from view unless you're logged in, and it's going to give you a login on any page. So that was the home page, and it just redirects everything to the WordPress login page. So I use this for years. What I have done more recently, since we moved over to admin site enhancements, is it includes a password protect feature. And so this is what we use now, where you can just set a password. And when you do this, well, so the default is secret. Let's just turn that on. What it's going to give you is this. Whoops. Oh, we're still cached. Or did I maybe not turn off private site correctly? My private site. We may either be hitting caching. Let's dump the cache. Oh, you know what? I bet no, there it is. So that's what you get. And this way, one password, not the product, but one single password, you can share with a team of your client's team, and that one password gets them in. So we'll type SECRET, and that loads the site just like that. So you get a little login wall-ish. It's great for this purpose, and that's what we use it for. So does that make sense, Alvin? If you are an ASE user, I believe that's in the free version. If you're using ASE at all, that's a great plugin that we just continue to get value out of. Melanie, don't forget to turn it off. The nice thing about it is it does give you this red reminder up here that, in fact, the password protection is on, and you can go and toggle it off, and then that'll go away. Boom, just like that. Good. So just use ASE and you get to remove another plugin out of your arsenal, right? That's like the whole job of ASE is to make you use fewer plugins. Okie dokie. Next up in the list is Sue. Hello, Sue. Okay. This is the one with many words. Here we go. Okay. Wow. Okay. How to approach a rebuild. All right, so it's a members-only site with a few public pages. Most of them require free registration. Built on Kadence. Ultimate member, approximately 1,500 members. Read-only site, just needs to have registration. 50 posts in one category, 40 in the other. Okay. 4 Kadence elements to display featured images, etc. Okay, lots of images. Some, but not a lot of custom CSS in the child theme. Took a while to get here, but here are my questions. Okay. Wow. Okay. Sue's getting her money's worth out of office hours today. Number 1, starting with a new design, my guess is to do the design and 2 post templates before importing anything. I don't think it matters, honestly, Sue. I would, if it was me, I would get the posts in there before I designed anything. That way you have some actual real live content to fool around with. So that's the way I do it. Just get the posts in there. It doesn't hurt anything. And then you can design around the actual content instead of Ipsum text. Okay. The new post templates and a non-restricted summary at the top for non-login users so the bots can have a look. Okay. So this is new, right? This non-restricted summary at the top, that's a new thing that doesn't exist yet, right? Okay. So I'm going to just keep reading, and I think I have some advice, but I don't want to give advice and then re-give it back and forth across the following questions. Okay, you've got Novamira. Awesome. For posts, the next category, copy the post content under the title to the row called whatever. Okay, you're thinking about this too hard. It's here's the, and I'm going to use this to make a broader point. Okay, when you're dealing with Claude and something like Novamira, it used to, like, the old way of doing this is you had to figure out what to do and then tell the AI to do it, right? You don't have to do that anymore. You just describe what you have, for example, all of this. And you say, okay, and now I'm going to a site where there's going to be a free blurb at the top. And so what I want you to do, Novamira, which exists on both now the old site or the current live site and the new development site, which you've already put up. Novamira, go read my posts. Like, I want you to grab those and pull them in. And I want you to take that export file and I want you to write the summaries or the viewable summaries for each of the existing post types, right? And that should probably be either in the WordPress core caption field, not caption. What am I trying to say, y'all? My brain has gone. The field where it just shows the excerpt field, right? And just let it do that for you, and it will import them for you to the new site. You don't have to worry about WP all this or that, export, import, blah, 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 WordPress, post, export, whatever, whatever. It'll just go do that for you. Now, it'll take some tokens to do that, but if you've got a Claude membership or whatever, it'll just use your membership to do that. And the worst case scenario is it runs out of tokens for your 5-hour block and you just pick it up later that day. So just pull it all over. Okay. So, yeah. All right. Consolidating the media library folders. Can Claude figure that out if I tell it the new folder names? What do you mean media library? Sue, is this a plugin that's creating media library folders? Okay. So I would just tell it that's what you want to do. And generally speaking, Novamira is going to be able to look at your site, figure out how media library folders work, and sort those things out for you. There are very, very few things that I've found that it can't do. You literally just point it at the site and start asking it questions. And oftentimes don't come to it with solutions, come to it with outcomes. This is what I'm going for. How should we get from here to there? And it will figure out the process for you. And you can say, here's what I think we ought to do. And you can approve it and boom, it'll go. Okay. Will Claude be able to access the live site because it requires a login? If you put Novamira on the live site, yes, you're going to authenticate it, and it doesn't care about a login because it's coming in as you with your administrator application password or OAuth, which however you connect it to connect to the site. So it's doing everything in the background, usually with WP CLI, which you don't have to do anything. Sue, will it impact the live site? Well, if you are reading from the live site, no, it won't, because it's just reading data. It's just doing it programmatically instead of, page by human being page. Okay, only a very few photos should be Googleable. Googleable. Oh, I skipped one. Will Claude be able to access the live site because it requires a login, or can it? I answered that one. Yeah, so it doesn't care about that because it will be logged in order to get access, period. Only a few photos should be Googleable. That's a fun word to say. Everybody right now with me, say it. Googleable or not. Most are available only to logged in users. Is that something? Yes, probably. Probably an MU plugin, and probably it would be a, if I had to, again, I can spell out how I think you would probably do it, but this is a great opportunity to say, hey, Claude, in the list, these are the photos that should not be Googleable. And so how do we do that? And what it's probably going to tell you is let's make a custom field on the in the media library for a public or not, basically, and it'll do that with an MU plugin probably. And it'll even update that data for you if you give it a list of the ones either that shouldn't be marked or should be marked one way or the other. It'll just fix it. 7, any advice for the rebuild? I may force current users to update their passwords after launch. Not worried about that. Might be able to import, export. Yeah. So look, Nova Mira, I've been telling y'all this, and if you've not tried it, y'all just download Nova Mira and try it. It is the best plugin for WordPress I've ever used that makes the most practical difference. Like since 2008, y'all, nearly 20 years of working with WordPress. This is the most significant plugin that I've ever used. Period. Like it's not even close. Um, what it's what so for example, a nonprofit that we're working with, they're using the events calendar, which we all know is not awesome to work with. And they're using events ticketing and all of those things. And so we we had Nova Mira on the dev site and the live site, and it went and pulled over not only the events and their data and their and their venue, but also all the tickets and the course, all the purchases. It pulled everything over and sorted it out correctly on the dev site, and it's kept it in sync throughout. And before we launch, we'll do one more loop through that to see if there's anything else that's left. I mean, this is the job. Remember, for years, if you've been watching Office Hours or whatever, for years, I've talked about it's the $1 million problem in WordPress. Keeping WooCommerce synced up with whatever, and a dev site, live site. Nova Mira does that just as part of its thing. It sorts it out. Where typical plugins were failing on that job in the past because it had to do all this work and think of accounting for IDs and all this. Nova Mira just grabs everything and sorts them in one by one and makes sure it's all linked up correctly. It does it with generative AI. So anyway, I really like Nova Mira. I have no vested interest. I'm not, no affiliate link, nothing like that. Go buy Nova Mira. It will absolutely blow your mind with what it can do. So, and the way to get it to blow your mind, this is the big takeaway from this whole question, is don't even try to describe a process. Let it figure that out. Describe the current case, the context of where you're at and where you want to go, and it will likely just figure all those things out and do it for you. Okay. So, Sue, did we cover everything? I did miss question 4. Compress X. Yeah, you can probably, I would I've never tried it, but I would imagine you can tell Compress X to run on the site if you want to. It does have a batch processing thing. In the demo on Tuesday, I just did those a few images because I didn't want to take the time to run the whole media library through a batch. So I just did those images manually, but it does have a batch tool like other image processing does. Anywho, did that answer all 612 of your questions, Sue? You are welcome. Oh, I love it. Okay, next up, Ben B. Hey, Mr. Ben. Okay. Okay. Have you used this CRM 20.com? No, I've used the upgraded version of it though, Ben. 21.com. Not really. Okay, this is interesting. It looks like a very simple database of things. I don't know. Never heard of it. Has anybody heard of 20.com? Oh, it's free? It has a free level, but they do charge for various things like agentic AI. So that's my question on all of this. This is, so here's the thing. any software like this, I'm not spending a dime on any software unless it from the core supports agentic AI. I want an API better. If possible, I want an MCP. I am actively working to replace QuickBooks with another accounting option that better supports AI out of the box, because it's just, why would I not? Like, why would I want to spend money on any software at all these days when, number one, I could probably build something similar without a whole lot of work in Claude to do that? And number two, why would I buy a product that doesn't let me use the single biggest thing that I use from day to day? Anyway, so my answer to 20 is I've never heard of it, but whatever the heck that means, build your CRM at AI speed. I would want that. So if this is an AI first CRM, I'm interested, right? Because I want to be able to do all these things in Claude to connect to these tools without me having to do a lot of effort to build the bridge to connect it. So anyway, yeah, never heard of it. Anybody else heard of 20? And so this, somebody mentioned, scrolling up, oh, Terry says they have a self-hosted option. Oh, self-hosting. Boom. Look at that. Okay. Interesting. So I would be interested in this potentially if this free self-hosted pro version would let me connect my Claude to it and I could do all the things. That would be interesting. Yeah. I would look strongly into that. Now that's me. You've got to decide what's most important for you. But I mean, my job now has turned into managing Claude from doing all the other things that I used to do. All right. Ben says about GitHub backups. With my agency OS all on GitHub, should we have a local backup of our GitHub agency OS? Absolutely. Absolutely. If yes, how do we do that? And what should this be? A daily backup? How do you automate the process? Well, the best way to do that is with GitHub Desktop. So this is the app. This is what I use. It lives on my desk, or it's an app, and it just goes out there and grabs it. It keeps things in sync in a local folder that I've specified on my computer. And then my computer is backed up a number of times and ways, but I have a server that all of our Macs back up to internally, and then that's there. I have a cloud backup as well. But yeah, it lives that way. And so there are multiple tiers of backups for the OS. This is a great piece of software. It's free. Just download it. You log in, you connect it. You'll see your everything, any whatever GitHub repos you have. You can just connect those and specify a local folder, and it'll pull it all down. Let me see if I can show something here. Yeah, like here's the one for my Brilliant OS. So yeah, and then it goes out. See, just automatically 4 minutes ago, and you can even manually do it if you want to. All right, and there's other ways too, I'm sure, to back up your GitHub, but it's pretty well backed up there too, and it's got change logs, all that built into it. All righty, next up is Billy. Hey, Billy. All right, Billy says, I am confused about when to use Claude Code and when to stay with Claude Opus or Fable. Okay, so let me pause right there, because that designation may be part of the challenge, because Claude Opus and Fable are the flavors of Claude, right? Like they're the models that Claude can use. Good, better, best kind of situation. Claude Code is the app, essentially. Let me just get something over here that I can actually show. Well, I'll just show this. Okay. So here's the office hours news prep thread from just earlier today, where I was running through all building the slides and so forth. So I'm using Claude Code, And in this conversation, it is set for Claude Opus 5. And I could choose different models, and Sonnet would probably be fine on this, but I've got enough room in my subscription where I just use Opus for pretty much everything now. And so you choose the model. Now, you can also do, the regular Claude chat or co-work here. So there's these three flavors of Claude. There's Claude Code, Claude Chat, Claude Co-work. And each of those, you get to choose what model that you want to use, whether it's Haiku, Simple, Sonnet, Average, Opus, Great, Fable, Extra Great. So does that help, Billy? There's so many options. So moving on with your actual question, I'm doing a redesign of a site. I created a staging site, installed Novamira. What am I trying to do? Love it. Remove Elementor from the site and work with Cadence blocks to basically recreate the old site. I pointed to the old site and asked it to do the above. Chose to use Claude Code. Yeah, it seems to be having issues with reproducing the site. For example, it has not made the hero full width and has struggled to get the colors right. Okay, so you've connected Novamira to the new site, right, Billy? Did you connect it to the old site? Is it also connected to the old site? Okay. And here the other part is, do you have Novamira or Novamira Pro? Okay, you do have Pro, and the Pro plugin is installed and licensed and active on, well, at least on the development side, because it's going to need those extra skills. Yeah. Okay. It's going to need those. What does it call them? It doesn't call them skills. It calls them proficiencies or something like ability. No, not abilities. Proficiencies or expertise is what they call them. Expertise, meaning that it knows the ins and outs of how Elementor and Cadence blocks and Beaver Builder and all those things work. So I would put it on both and just tell it you're trying to move things over. Are you trying to basically produce an exact visual copy, essentially, but you want it in Cadence on this site and Elementor on the live site? Is that what you're after? I'm assuming yes. And as long close to it, I mean, it should be able to create something that is nearly identical. But this is where it gets into a deeper conversation, because when you just tell it to reproduce this in Cadence blocks, I mean, you know how it is. There's 100 different ways to do something in Cadence blocks, right? And so different developers are going to do it different ways, and Claude may choose to do it in a way that is different from the way you did it. So, for example, when we first tinkered with taking a site that was designed as a flat HTML design preview and have Novamira through Claude build that site in Beaver Builder, then it did a whole bunch of weird things. Like, instead of using the native settings in the modules, it used 8 million lines of CSS. Or it added HTML blocks or did different things. And it accomplished the goal. Like, the site looked pretty darn close, right? Nearly identical. Enough to where I would have been happy until I got in there and saw how it did it. So what we had to do was take a step back, give it more context, which means, Claude, buddy, you need to understand how we build with Beaver Builder or how you build with Cadence sites. For example, if there is a module level setting that can make the change you need, for example, turn the font bold in the module, not with CSS, thank you, do that. You should, if there are CSS changes, we have a cascade of where we want that CSS to be. Some of it might be in the module, some of it might be on the page, some of it might be global, just depending on, is that going to be reused or not? And so I've given our whole system lots of context about how I like to build a site. And so now when it picks it up, it knows, oh, this is how we are going to build a site. Not like how I would have done it just to get the job done, but I want to do it in the process that the agency does it. Does that make sense? And so it's not altogether shocking that it's not doing quite right. It should render pretty closely, but it does take a little time to build your infrastructure so that you help it understand how you like to build. And the best way to do that is to get really angry at it. Like let it go through a process and do it wrong and go, no, 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 this is, I want this instead of this and this instead of this. And then let that conversation write this set of rules that it will follow the next time it builds. So I said a minute ago, my job, it seems like, has turned into I'm a Claude operator more than I am a web developer anymore. And that's because since Christmas of last year, every single day I've been building into this vast volume of context and knowledge that helps Claude understand what we do and how we work and what our preferences are and all of these things. It takes time. Now, class is saying it'd be a great webinar topic. I don't know that I can teach it in a live stream. There are so many aspects of it. Maybe we can think, I don't know, we can hint at it a little bit. This is honestly something that requires, like, you're just going to have to set aside a week or two to start building this thing out. And there's some people here in the chat that are in my AI mastermind, for example, that have done this. And it takes a little while. So anyway, I'm not sure how I would do that in a live stream yet. I'll think about it. But there's a lot of work involved in it. And it does take commitment, and you're going to get angry at it. But I've kept at it, and now we've got something that works pretty darn well. So anyway, all of that. Did I answer your question, Billy? So you're saying you may just end up having to do it manually, perhaps, but it's kind of like if you were to hire an actual human assistant, right? I don't know if you've ever done that before, but if you've ever brought somebody else onto your team, it takes 3 months at least to help them start to see how you see and think how you think and speak how you speak and carry your, like, how do I pass on the DNA of my business to somebody else that works with me, right? It takes a while in the best of circumstances. And onboarding an agent as a part of your team, it's the same thing. And so, generally speaking, every time I've been coaching solopreneurs, freelancers, micro agency owners, whatever you want to say, since back in 2014. And there's been so many times where they've gotten to this point in their business where they've wanted to bring on somebody in a team. And I've always given the advice of, look, you're going to want to fire this person 10 times in the first week, because it's like, well, I could just do this myself. It would take less time if I did this myself. And you're right, but you're not focusing on right now. You're focusing on building the skills and perspective and shared knowledge with a teammate. It's going to take you extra time now, but it's going to pay off a month from now, right? And it's no different at all with an AI teammate. Does that make sense? Billy, if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to talk about that more. Okie dokie. We're already after the hour. So let us move on to there's 3 more questions in the list, it looks like. And let's move on to the next one from Paul. Speaking of backups, do you have a favorite NAS that you recommend? What do you use for backing up all your Macs in your house? Oh my. Okay. So I fell into this little vault. I can't type. Okay. So I use this thing called Unraid. It is built for cheap hardware, although you can put it on really great hardware. It is a server type operating system. Claude can connect to it, which I just love. But it will support Time Machine backups out of the box. It also runs Docker. So I've got all these cool Docker things going on. And so it's a server operating system, and it's pretty inexpensive, honestly. This is what I use, unraid.net. But there are a ton of just NAS devices that are plugging into your network, and it broadcasts its existence to Time Machine. Like Time Machine can find it. But that's what I use. I love Unraid. I'm always finding fun ways to use it. Like our home media libraries on there. It's got all kinds of stuff. Okay. Next up in the list is Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie. Do you stick Unraid on a machine with lots of storage? Yes. Yeah. So a lot of folks just grab an old computer and install it on there. It runs from a thumb drive. It's a very light operating system, and you just put a bunch of disks in there. And it uses the JBOD disk format, which stands for just a bunch of disks, which is hilarious. And it just makes one giant share out of them. There's a lot of detail on this, But yeah, it's great. I've fallen into a rabbit hole with this, and it's a little hobby, but a lot of fun stuff. The work level's a little higher than just going and buying, for example, a Synology NAS and putting some drives in it, and you plug it in and you're good to go. But Synology doesn't do nearly the cool stuff that Unraid can do. Okay, Bonnie is next. I have our software download file because it's file size on Cloudflare's R2. Oh, Bonnie, so this is the company and your download. It's a software company, right? I'm trying to remember. Yes. Okay. Okay. So it's on Cloudflare R2. Easy Digital Downloads extension only works with Amazon S3. Of course it does. Grok suggests storage for EDD via S3 compatible. I do not. I have never, somehow, Bonnie, in all my years of the pressing of the word, I have never used Easy Digital Downloads. I don't know why that is. I've just never had a need for it. And so I am not up to the specifics on this. I do know that Cloudflare R2 is an S3 compatible framework. So, Grok's pretty smart about some of this stuff. And if Grok says that'll work, give it a try. I love Cloudflare R2. All right, last question of the day comes from Sue. Hey, Sue. Hopefully this is a quick one. After finishing a site built on Kadence, do you leave the starter templates plugin active or delete it? I would delete it. I thought it was the only way to get the option in the customizer for adding scripts. So if I have a plugin that does that or use functions. Okay, no. Okay, so the option for getting scripts, Sue, comes from this. It's a toggle called header footer scripts. So you toggle those on. Where are they? Where are you? Oh, you know what? I may not have the pro version. Anyway, somewhere here, there's a thing called header footer scripts, and I don't have the pro plugin active on this site. Anyway, just go to Kadence and settings and toggle on header footer scripts, and that's it. And you do, yeah, once you have a starter template set up, I would delete that plugin. You don't need it anymore. Yeah, I'm not licensed here for some reason. That's interesting. That's a problem to solve. Okay. Well, that, my friends, brings us to the end of the list of questions for office hours this week. Good stuff, as always. Remember, we do have a live stream coming up August the 18th, all about Is Your Site Agent Ready? And I will be noodling on a whole bunch of topics, which we'll have out by next week about September and October, at least, maybe a little further. So you're funny, Ben. So there you go. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you get to have a lot of fun with friends and family and you don't do any work at all. And you get to enjoy some great downtime that you have certainly earned. I will see you back here on Thursday of next week for office hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.